Bitcoin got the bounce that I was expecting from my very last video. In this video, let me show you what you can expect now. Are you ready? You better be. Let's go. So here's a quick snapshot of what I said during a piece of my last Bitcoin update.
Okay, so my main idea today is we might expect a bounce here soon, and here are the reasons why, and here's roughly where it might kind of peter out. So let's go back in, and a lot of this stuff is kind of aligning with the 44K area.
All right, 44K area. So now let's go to Bitcoin and let's check out where it has gone. This is a messy chart, but all we need to see is where it went up to. So it wicked up to $44,094. So almost 44K on the dot. We did get that bounce, but also in that video, I let everybody know there was a chance. So if you didn't catch that video, you might want to watch it because it has strong implications for the entire month of January. If you didn't catch that, and I'll probably link that to link it to you at the end of this video. So the rest of this video, I want to show you where price might go next and what you can expect of your altcoins as a consequence of Bitcoin going up or down. And then B, I want to offer you, perhaps more immediately, right after I go back to the charts here, I want to offer you an opportunity to learn how to accumulate crypto in a downtrend type of market or just a choppy trend type of market. It's very challenging. And if you're a person who thinks you can just swing trade altcoins like I did for far too long, especially through May, June, but I gave up on that. So right now the money is in the short-term time frames. And I know most of you have jobs, you don't have time to sit there and be a day trader, but you don't have to do that. It could be a weekend thing or just 1 to 2 hours a day if you really are very set on accumulating crypto. So these are the two things that I want to accomplish in this video. So let's jump into the idea that I have been giving updates far above and beyond what I give on YouTube here. So check this out. So this is what I have been offering my not patrons. I don't use Patreon anymore. My Discord community. So as of actually quite a while ago, I let folks know as of the 7th, so about 5 days ago, that when there was a big red weekly candle during the dump, I was letting them know, hey, this is probably likely going to be a fake out. The next week might go down on Monday and or Tuesday and then rip up to the other side. And I was that was as price was tanking, correct? Okay, so you can see there. And then on the 10th, I let folks know that, hey, I think that was the drive down this week, likely will flip green now. And it did flip green on Tuesday. And I let folks know, hey, this is the things that you need to think about. All right. And then as it happened, I gave another update to my community, letting them know, hey, I think that was the wick. I think that was the Monday wick. It should flip and turn the other way, which it did. And then more specifically for this bounce, I let everybody know, hey, the resistance is at 43,250, if you can see here on my chart. But then I, let them know that 44K, you probably get a wick up to there, kind of like a stop hunt type of deal. And I even offered an exact box, but for my higher tiers, Crackhead, Crypto Crackhead, and VIP tiers, I not only give analysis, but I try to give them a heads up on how to click around with their money so they can put it into effect. Because analysis is one thing, it's only half. And then understanding how to get setups and utilize clicking around with your money to make money from a proper analysis is a totally different thing. You can have the right analysis and totally screw up your money and have losses, right? So I will flip to what I provided my higher tiers here, if it'll let me do this. All right, so, well, I thought I had all this set up, but I guess it, let's see here, right here, trading journal, and bam. So I let them know very, very specifically, hey, I think this is my box, okay? Maybe a wick above, and I think I mentioned that here, situation number 1, green, yeah. So I let them know how the next daily candles will go, but on a shorter time frame, I let them know, hey, I think it's going to hit this box, right? So let's go to this box. Where did price go? Right to the box, wicked above, hit that 44K area, correct? All right, so now I've been reading the charts pretty well recently. Do I always? No, I do not. But the rest of this video, I want to give you an idea of what you can look out for very specifically. Okay. And it's actually very simple. So I'm going to just use one EMA. I'm going to take off everything but one EMA, and it'll be the daily 10 EMA. And I want to show you how things work typically with the daily 10 EMA after a large downturn. All right. So let's get rid of that. All right. So check this out. So what we're looking for here is how price interacts with this red line after large downturns. Now, does this and not the same thing apply during rips to the upside, very strong uptrends? Absolutely not. So what I'm about to tell you is more applicable during very choppy times like all of this for 2 whole years, right? So this applied for 2 years here. Would it have applied for the first 5 months or first 4 months of 2021? No, it wouldn't have. However, now this is all choppy stuff, way more similar to back here in 2019 and 2020, right? The beginning of 2019 through 2020. So just keep that in mind. All right. So when you're ripping to the upside, this rule doesn't apply. However, typically after a large downturn, okay, so you get a large downturn. See that big red candle there? Typically when price goes under it, all right, you'll either get a wick or you'll get some price action just above the 10 EMA, then a big downturn. However, this was a more robust move above the red line. It's typically not that big. So I'm going to show you more common examples. So you can see here, we had a tear down, and then this candle went right up to the 10, did not wick above it, got rejected by it, and moved back down. And if you're doing shorter trades, more in and out type of stuff, that 2 red candles in a row with the wick down on the third one, that's a big trade, right? And then the next time it did it again. Here, let's zoom way in here so you can see this. Look, it wicked right above, next red day. Tried it a third time, 3 wicks above, then red days, right? So sometimes you do get multiple days that do wick above because it keeps trying, and that could be what happens this time. So I'm showing you what's happening now in all of the cases that might end up happening. All right. So then again, you finally had a more reasonable attempt to get up. It actually did close candles above the red line and it failed. And then then you reset the ticker, right? So all these other times are the first one, the second one, so on and so forth. So you had a big dump. The first wick above came right back down. All right. Second little pump up to it, it got rejected by it and came down. Right. So in each of these days, oddly, tried to test the 10 EMA and just got rejected each time, lower and lower and lower closes each time. All right. So now after this big dump here, you essentially reset the count. So this count right here is essentially as if it were the first attempt to get above. And I have the suspicion that most likely what's going to end up happening here is a reiteration of one of the examples where it just wicks above, then has a drive back down. Maybe not that big of a red day. And if that happens, I'm going to be in some pretty massive profits. And so a lot of the community on trading 3S tokens, which I do have some live trading channels on my Discord if you wanted to peek and see how other people are doing it for education and entertainment purposes only. So I think something like this could happen, or a case where tomorrow wicks up even higher than 44K and then the move starts. So these are all the things that I think could happen next, right? But what I don't anticipate happening is something to the effect where you get full on candle closures above. And so it's really important to know why I think this. All right. So let me show you why I think this. Because before this happened, you had 1 wick above, 2 wick above, 3 wick above, 4 wick above, then your rally. Okay. And remember, I said the count restarts after this dump. After it did this and dumped, the count restarts. So it only got 1, 2 wicks, and then it dumped again. The count restarts, the first one. So I don't think, because it hasn't given a second and third try, I don't think this will be a case where price is going to close multiple candles over the 10. Could it happen? Absolutely, it could happen. But I think it's highly unlikely. I think what is definitely, what is much more likely, because it's the first try after this another move down. It's the first try to get above. I think it's going to come back down here, back to the middle or bottom of the micro range, to which I will zoom in here in just a minute, and then it'll give another try and maybe get above on the second pass. But this first pass, it's just very, very unlikely that it stays above. It's very unlikely, but it could happen. It really could happen. And so let me show you why it could happen. And why, what I'd be looking for to bail on the short positions that I have open right now. And are these short positions that I'm planning on holding for weeks? Absolutely not. I'm talking more like shelf life of 8 hours or something like that. Like these aren't mega short positions looking for 10K Bitcoin looking to get rich. This is looking to, for 10% increases and stuff like that, right? So I want to be very clear with what I'm saying. I'm not looking for some mega short. All right. So I'm on the 2-day chart now. So how this could break down is this. A lot of times when price does go below the orange line on the 2-day chart, which is the 200 EMA, it will snap back up and dance around. All right. So sometimes it dances around just under it. Sometimes it'll dance around right on it. So since price has gotten above this orange line, it is possible. So let me get rid of this stuff. So what I will be looking out for is the idea that, let me get rid of the blue line too. So what I am looking out for is the idea that on the 2-day chart, this 2-day candle closes in 3 hours. So it closes today. The next day, the next 2-day candle could come down here and just keep resting, wick even higher, and it could dance right on the line. Do you see what I'm saying? So in that case, I would be stopped out, and it would just be a bunch of trying to get a small short, and I will be very aware of that. However, I don't think that's the most probable case. I think it's got to give one more 2-day push down, maybe a red candle, and then it might start bouncing to that effect. And here's why I think that. So let me put on a smaller time frame. Put back on my micro range here. And I'm going to use an indicator that I built myself and that I offer to my crypto crackhead and VIP tiers. But I'm not going to explain to you exactly how to use it. But you'll be able to see visually what I'm talking about. So I'm going to take off price for just a moment. And here's why I think it's going to come down first and then try to dance on that 2-day orange line, which is why I'm in short plays that have a short shelf life, right? So I'm not looking for a mega short, just short position shorts. So I think it'll come down just a little bit. And then I think honestly, Bitcoin's going to find some stability down here and then try to give a push. But I think it's going to take a little bit here. So see how far away the blue and gray and the ribbons are. So all these colors, the rainbow. So let's just call that the rainbow. So the rainbow is really far from the gray line. The gray line is really far from the blue line. Because they're so far apart and spread out, the chance for just an upside recovery is very low. Typically that happens when they're smashed together and the rainbow is crossing above the gray line. That's just how it works. And when that happens, price will come up at the blue line, come back down to the gray line, allow the ribbons to come cross above the gray line, and then your more mid macro, maybe, 2 week to 2 month move to the upside, and sometimes it gets the macro move. Really, I mean, this chart's kind of a big deal, but the shelf life of it isn't always months and months at a time. So let me show you an example. So you see how here the gray line was just barely crossing below the blue line, and the rainbow got right back up. So they're all three together. So you essentially had permission to fly back up, right? So totally different situation. They were smashed together. Right. And then the gray was just barely below. The gray just barely went below the blue. See that? And that was back in September. So that's why you got that big push. We're able to get that big push up in September because the rainbow, gray, and blue were all smashed together. And right now they're not. So you can't you're not essentially allowed to get a big move up. Now, is it possible? Yes, but it's statistics. It's simply extremely unlikely. All right. So here's a case where the rainbow got up to the gray, okay, then went up to the blue, waited for the rainbow to get to the blue, and then skyrocketed. So could that be what happens? Absolutely. And if that were to happen, I would bail very quickly on my short positions. But that was the culmination of the end of Wyckoff before market makers ran it the other way. So I would be able to know very quickly if I need to scramble out, especially if price, let me zoom way into this part here. If price comes back down to these ribbons and finds support, I will probably start, and it starts pumping back up. I will probably bail on my shorts because it's probably going to move up. However, it hasn't even tested the gray line yet. So it's only testing the top of the rainbow. So I think it's going to come back down here, allow this gray to get a little closer while keeping the rainbow, about level, and it's going to find stability. And as the rainbow gets closer and closer and closer to that gray line, then price will come up to the gray line, come back down to the ribbons, then go to the blue line, which will be approaching at that time like that. So this is the blue line. And then it'll come down, the ribbons will keep coming up, and it'll happen like that. And that'll be late January that could happen. But right now, I don't think price is, essentially has permission to fly, because this gray line needs to get closer to the ribbons. So that means it needs to come back down, keep the ribbons level as the gray keeps falling, and then they'll touch, and then it can maybe move up to the blue line and then give it another shot. This visual here with the rainbow, the gray line, and the blue line, which I teach my upper two tiers how to use these. I think price needs to come back down to this range. Now, oftentimes when you get when the rainbow, gray, and blue are this far apart, for example, all right. Let me show you an example of when they're this far apart. Okay, so here they were far apart too, right? See how far apart the rainbow, the gray line, and the blue line were? Typically, when you get to the red, to the upper line, it comes back down, right? And then, so 1, 2, 3 attempts to get above the rainbow. Fourth attempt was bigger, and it still dropped, all right? It still dropped on the fourth big attempt that came up and almost touched the blue line, right? So you touched near the top of the rainbow, got above the rainbow, got to the gray line, got to the blue line, and then failed. So 4 attempts, and it failed. And let's see what number attempt this is. So after this big drop, so the count resets with this drop here. See how price dropped really heavily here? So the count resets. So this is try number 1. It typically takes a few pushes before it can then really do some damage to get up to the blue line. It doesn't just do it on its first try. It simply doesn't work like that. And you can also see here that it tried once, twice, 3 times, 4 times, and then this was a bear trap, which could happen again, but I don't think. I think it's just going to find stability and come up. I don't think a bear trap is going to happen again. So that is all the reasons why I think we're going to play down here just below. So to make more easy sense of this, if you just put on the 2-day 200 EMA, so that orange line that I had. So what that means is I think there's a strong probability that this is going to be one of the cases where the 2-day candles end up dancing just below or across, so on and below, so above and below. So the candles go above and below the 2-day chart. And but that means that it'll come back down to the middle of this micro range, and it agrees with those 1 hour long-term ribbons that I have. So that gives you a visual without, letting you know exactly all the ins and outs of the rainbow, the gray line, and the blue line and all that stuff. But that's visually what I got. So I think, if price were to, if that's right, then I won't be looking for some mega short, right? I would be closing them out and taking my profit somewhere, take a little bit at the top of this micro range, some on the 3/4 line, some here. But these are all the reasons why I would be closing those shorts, and maybe even look for small play longs back up to the orange line again. And I'm just going to be playing the dance. So I'm essentially want to dance with price, as price most likely is going to dance on this orange line, as it historically just does. It simply just likes to dance. I mean, look at, so this was, so during Wyckoff, it was dancing on top of the orange line. Then midway through, it danced across the orange line, and then it danced just below, and then it bumped, right? So, but look how much time it spent dancing, right? And so look at other examples that weren't, crypto cartel influenced. So this was a case where it danced on top. This was a case where it danced just below. And this is kind of what I'm looking for, or something between these two examples. Because if I went back farther, sometimes, price will dance on. So the upper part of the candles are above, the lower part of the candles are below. So one of these 3 examples is what I think is going to happen for the next week or 2. It's going to be a dance either on top, below, or across. So like in the middle of, like as if it were like a spearing through like the chest of price, right? So it's going to be one of these three. And I'm kind of thinking it's either going to be this one or this one, as opposed to this one, because price did not use the orange as support. So it's very unlikely that it gets back above and then dances on it. I just don't see that happen. I think it'll dance below it. And then try to give a run or dance on it. All right. So this is what I'm seeing. So this is essentially a visual analysis and a feeling analysis type of deal. The feel of price, how price moves, right? How it dances. It moves like an animal. A snake moves differently than a horse, right? The way a horse runs is different than how a leopard or a cheetah runs, right? So cheetahs have their front paws go between their back legs when they run, but horses do a more of like a staggered type of thing when they run. And then and as it goes faster, it's still trotting in that fashion, but it runs completely different from a cheetah and a leopard, right? The fast cats, they don't run like a horse. And so, and some altcoins don't run and they don't behave like Bitcoin. I mean, and that's why, trading too many altcoins that you don't have a feel for how it moves, how it runs, how it slithers like a snake or whatever. Kind of, so like Chainlink might be your snake because the way it moves is really, really quite interesting. Being in its own little world in a bull market during the 2020 kind of bearish market type of deal. So this is so in summary, to give you ranges here more simply, let me get rid of this micro range so we can clean this chart up a little bit. I think that what is getting ready to happen, let's see here, range, micro. So what I think is getting ready to happen, let me go to the daily chart in case some of you don't have access to the 2-day chart. Maybe you could just throw on an EMA, maybe try the 377. It might be it might be bigger than that. Yeah, so the daily 377. I think you're going to have a dance around the 377, and the free the free version of TradingView allows you to use that. You just switch it to 377. So I think we're going to dance around the 377, mostly just below it, right? Mostly just below, because we had a crash below it. I don't think it's going to zoom up on top and use it as support, although that would be my second. That would be the second most probable, get above and then use it as support. But I just don't, because of the ribbons, because the way the ribbons in the rainbow, so the rainbow, gray line and blue line work, I don't think I think it's going to dance below it or across it like a spear through its chest of price. Is that making sense? All right, so click this video right here if you want to watch my last Bitcoin analysis, which is more long-term or mid-term than this video. This is a short-term video. And then click right here if you haven't watched my origin wave theory and why alts might bleed. All altcoins might bleed until September. For the vast majority of 2022, I give you my reasons why you need to check out that video. And then also click this circle if you're not subscribed. You just got Timified worldwide. Peace.